Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we're going to be talking about some must-sell wide receivers ahead of Week 4 here. It's a Saturday. We usually don't post videos and episodes today, but we've got more content to cover here, and these are players I think that you want to try and move off of as soon as possible. There is the potential that these players do have some nice games, and I'll touch on that in today's video because a few of them have nice matchups. And if that is the case, I think you should go ahead and make these moves for your teams because it'll play out better for you in the long run. And I think that there's other options out there that you can buy low for right now and will be able to buy low for next week, which we'll talk about in those episodes that you'd rather get your hands on. So click that subscribe button and turn the bell on so you don't miss those up and coming trade advice videos for Week 5 fantasy football. But without further ado, let's hit that intro and get straight in to our must-sell wideouts. One more note before we get into my first must-sell wide receiver here, Chase Claypool. If you have questions about your lineups, your fantasy leagues, drop those down in the comment section below, and myself or Eric will respond back to you as soon as we're able to. Also, if you'd like some rankings so that you can take a look at those for your roster and figure out which of your options are the best to be starters in your lineups, head over to sizzlefantasy.com and become an SFS Gold member. It's just over $1 a week, and you'll get access to myself setting your lineup for you on a week-to-week basis, answering your personal DM questions on a day-to-day basis, and also those rankings, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense will all be accessible to you week to week. Every single one I put out a new list for, and I have a new set of rankings based on matchups, health, and all kinds of other stuff that we cram together and make that one big master list for a given week. So with that being said, Chase Claypool, my first must-sell wideout for this week. Steelers wide receivers are trending down big time for me right now. I am not a big fan of having these players on my roster, to be honest, outside of Deontay Johnson. Why Deontay Johnson, you might ask? Deontay is the player whose skill set actually fits the capabilities of Ben Roethlisberger at this point in his career. Big Ben can't throw it downfield anymore. He's just not an efficient passer. He's not a dependable passer. Getting Chase Claypool or Juju Smith-Schuster's looks down the field, and in particular, throwing in tight windows in the end zone and the red zone as well, he's not very good. He needs space and separation. There's a lot of error and a lot of room for improvement in terms of the accuracy. I don't know how many passes I could tell you against the Bengals he was throwing into tight windows that were just awful. The interceptions he was throwing were embarrassing. His athleticism looks like it's at an all-time low. He just looks old out there. He doesn't have what it takes at this point to facilitate the potential top 20 wide receiver producer that Chase Claypool could be. I mean, he has seen 29 targets to this point in the year. 29. That's almost 10 per game through 3 weeks. And he's not a top-end fantasy wide receiver. You don't see other players with that volume of target share struggling as much as Chase is. No touchdowns yet to start the season. 15 targets last week, only 96 yards. He couldn't even break the 100-yard barrier with that amount of looks. Again, it's because he's not getting vertical passing attempts, and when he does, they're not very accurate because they either go out of bounds or they're led way too far in front of him. He hasn't actually gotten quality chances and looks at the football to this point in the season. So if it's not coming in week 3, if we don't see improvement in week 4 in a tough matchup against Green Bay, he's going to be playing Jair Alexander, who's one of the top shutdown corners in the league. If he doesn't produce this week, which I don't expect him to because that matchup is already a disservice to him as well, I think it's time to sell him because as we get into weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, we're talking fantasy playoff season in this extended 18-week schedule. I don't think Big Ben's arm's going to get any better. It's probably going to get worse. He's probably going to become even more of a noodle, and I just don't want to see that happen and be dealing with Chase Claypool at that point in time. So sell high on him. Huge target share last week, 15, but that's because Juju left halfway through the game and Deontay Johnson was out. Deontay was a full participant in practice this week, or today as I'm recording this video. So he'll be out there. He'll be healthy. Chase Claypool's value, I think it's really capped in terms of the upside he has, which is what made him so intriguing to me in the first place. Marquise Brown, and I've been giving him some crap here the last week for calling him Butterfingers Brown for those 2 terrible drops. But this has less to do with Marquise Brown's play and more of the fact that Rashad Bateman, the team's first-round draft choice out of Minnesota, is activated off the injured reserve, and he will be integrating himself into this offense. What does that mean for Marquise Brown? He's the clear number one in this offense right now. I think he's going to struggle this week against Denver, so if you can take advantage of him and sell him high now, try and be a salesman here and get past that down performance he had against Detroit, I think there's going to be less target share here. It's plain and simple math. You see another legitimate threat, and I think Rashad Bateman is going to be a dang good player in this league. Walk into this offense, naturally, everyone's going to see a little slight piece of their puzzle eaten up with Rashad entering this offense. It's still a run-first team. Lamar Jackson is still going to be heavily involved on the ground. They're still going to run this 3 running back committee-style system and hand the ball off to a variety of players. I just think the overall opportunities for Hollywood go down. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to be a lineup caliber player, but I think that his overall value in terms of the production he's been giving us for the first month of the season, that should be expected to drop. We just got to be realistic with ourselves here. You can get yourself a better value for Hollywood right now than you probably will be able to, in 3-4 weeks once Bateman's gotten himself involved in this offense and really established what he is going to be and what his role is going to be with this team. Odell Beckham Jr. So a lot of people aren't going to like this, but 1 week after his return, it's already time to sell high. And you're going to have a chance to sell him high next week as well, because I think he's going to go out there and have a day against the Minnesota Vikings. But the one thing that concerns me here is Jarvis Landry is on the injured reserve. That means there is a very significant piece of this offensive passing game that isn't out there taking targets away. Once Jarvis comes back into things, OBJ is going to see his week-to-week volume reduce. He might be incredibly efficient. He might still have some really good games where he booms and scores touchdowns over the top, but he's a player I see more as a boom or bust option on a week-to-week basis. Again, for week 4, I expect a monster game against the Vikings. I think he can go out there and beat any defensive back they've got in the field, including Patrick Peterson. But Odell Beckham Jr., once Jarvis gets himself back on the field, once we see this team, which has an identity, run the football, play action passes, get back to that, well, they have been doing so, but once there's other legitimate targets, and Jarvis Landry is a very legitimate piece of this offense, once he gets rolling, that is going to have an actually very large implication on Odell's volume. And we kind of saw that through the first month of the year with Odell last season, but obviously that ACL injury cut things short, so we weren't able to really see the full 16-game effect of what Jarvis would be with Odell. But he is, in general, underproduced since his time as a Brown, and I think that has happened for a reason. It's not that he's the same player, it's just for the raw amount of opportunities that he's getting. That has reduced since he was a New York Giant. Julio Jones. So Julio here, this is one where Julio Jones-itis caught up to him. I talked about A.J. Brown catching a case of Julio Jones-itis because I was joking about, Julio's hamstring was something I was talking about and very concerned with this whole offseason. A.J. Brown pops up with a hamstring injury, boom, out of the Week 3 game right away. Julio plays throughout the rest of the performance, and now here in the middle of the week, it looks like AJ and Julio are both a toss-up, and we'll see if they're able to play with, you guessed it, both of them have hamstring injuries. So Julio Jones-itis is apparently contagious and impacts all acting wide receiver 1 threats for the Titans offense. But this is a real question mark and a real concern I have. I think this hamstring is a legitimate issue for Julio. It's bothered him throughout his time as a Falcon, and it's Week 3, heading into Week 4, and Julio Jones is already having issues with his hamstring early in the season. I just don't want to deal with wondering and having a dicey toss-up. Is my wide receiver, who you have as a starting player almost every game that he's healthy and able to go, is he going to be limited? Is he going to be 100%? Will he be a decoy? Hamstring injuries are a bugger. You cannot run at top speed with a hamstring injury. You can't cut the same, and you just can't perform to your maximal potential, as you couldn't with any injury. But hamstrings, especially when you're a wide receiver running at your top-end speed, when you're trying to break in and out of routes and go up and make physical catches, which is Julio Jones' play style, this does not suit him well, and this is not something I am very excited about here. If you can find a trade offer for him, get off of Julio Jones. You don't want to be in this market. A.J. Brown is the Titans wide receiver to own. He's younger. He's more durable. He does have some injuries, but he is, in general, a more durable player. That goes back to just the fact that he's younger. And earlier on in his NFL career, he's got the same type of upside. He's got the same offense. They are literally smashing images of one another. One guy is just 8 years younger than the other, so I trust him a little bit more, and I like his ceiling more because he's had a higher target share to this point in the year as well, outside of obviously when he missed pretty much that entire game last week. Kenny Golladay, another one. I do not want to be involved in the Kenny Golladay market anymore. You might not even be able to sell high for him right now. But, man, has he been disappointing. He has the build of a wide receiver one. He has the skill set of a wide receiver one. He can win contested grabs, go up and snatch the ball away from defenders and make crazy plays. But he just doesn't really fit with Daniel Jones in this offense. Sterling Shepard, to me, is clearly the most valuable and most usable fantasy option in this pass-catching offense. But Kenny Golladay is someone who you can use to your advantage here. This week, you can spin the fact that Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard both did not practice on Thursday, are kind of a toss-up. You can sell Kenny Golladay as the number one here, say that his breakout is just a couple weeks away, or it's rather coming just this weekend. Be a salesman here. Pitch to your trade partner. Don't just click an offer and send it. Try and develop a relationship with the person you're trading with. Obviously, it's probably one of your buddies if you're in a league with them together. And make this deal go down. Whether it's a private message, you talk to them at the lunch table, whatever the case may be, you can find a way to sell Kenny Golladay as being a future wide receiver one this season and get rid of this mess for your team. Because whether it's just him being questionable every single week and not knowing what the heck is wrong with him, whether it's just the fact that he's not getting enough targets in this offense, or whether you just don't trust the Giants, there's plenty of reasons to want to move off of Kenny. Try and sell him for a better piece. At this point, I'm selling him for... Man, I would probably sell him for a Corey Davis. If you can pull off a trade for Robert Woods, that would be magical, but you might be a little bit wishful at that point. Brandon Ayuk, if you can still buy low for him in your leagues, absolutely a trade I'm going out and doing. There's a lot of options here, so drop your questions down in the comment section below if you've got any ideas, if you've got any potential situations arising in your league. I am very happy to help you with that, and I would love to get a deal done so you can get number 19 off your fantasy team and move on to better days. Alrighty, those were my 5 must-sell wide receivers heading into week 4 here. Check back again next week if you're looking for more trade advice. I'll have probably 4 or 5 videos from just overall trade targets, my buy, sell, hold episode, my 5 must-buy wide receivers and running backs, and then my sell list again for next week. So a ton of trade content goes down here every single week on the SFS channel. In addition to waiver wire pickups, lineup advice, must-sit and must-start players, we've got it all covered for you this year. So make sure to click that subscribe button and turn the bell on so you never miss an episode. We'd love to have you join the community. We've got an SFS community Discord server, which is free and accessible for all of you watching this to join. And you can go on there, chat with some other players who are playing fantasy, watching the SFS channel. You can rant about your teams if they're struggling. You can get all your steam off your plate if you need to do that. And if it's a rough Sunday, we're here for you through thick and thin this season. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Go check out some of my other episodes that I posted this week because we got a lot of great stuff for you to take advantage of. So with that being said, see you later, guys. Peace out.